Welcome to a deep dive into Bitcoin's future. You've heard the hype, Bitcoin as digital gold, a store of value hoarded by investors, or the rise of ETFs, turning it into just another Wall Street product. But here's the truth. Bitcoin won't scale or achieve mass adoption through speculation or derivatives that dilute its essence. True adoption comes from people using it, spending Bitcoin, and replacing it in everyday transactions. In this video, we'll explore why hoarding and ETFs fall short, how real usage drives growth, and the technologies making it possible. Bitcoin's early narrative positioned it as digital gold, a scarce asset to buy and hold forever. Today, over 70% of Bitcoin's supply sits dormant in wallets, untouched for months or years. This hoarding mentality stems from Bitcoin's fixed 21 million coin cap, creating deflationary pressure. As prices rise, holders, often called HODLers, refuse to spend, betting on future gains. It's understandable. Bitcoin's volatility rewards patience. But does this lead to scaling? Scaling means Bitcoin becoming a global currency, handling billions of transactions efficiently. Hoarding does not achieve that. It creates a feedback loop. Fewer transactions means slower network growth and limited real-world utility. Economically, it's like burying gold in your backyard. It appreciates, but doesn't circulate to fuel an economy. Austrian economics argued for competing currencies that gain trust through use, not just scarcity. Hoarding turns Bitcoin into a speculative bubble, vulnerable to crashes when faith wavers. Worse yet, it exacerbates inequality. Early adopters and institutions hoard vast amounts, leaving newcomers priced out. If Bitcoin remains a rich person's toy, it won't scale to billions of users. Adoption requires velocity, the rate at which money changes hands. Low velocity from hoarding stifles innovation and keeps Bitcoin niche, enabling centralized competitors to gain adoption. Enter financial derivatives like Bitcoin ETFs. Since their approval in 2024, they've exploded with billions poured in by institutions. Proponents say this brings legitimacy and liquidity, onboarding traditional investors without them touching actual Bitcoin. But this is adoption in name only. It dilutes the supply and undermines Bitcoin's core principles. ETFs create paper Bitcoin, claims on the asset without direct ownership. This fractionalizes supply, allowing more Bitcoin to trade than exists on chain. It's reminiscent of gold ETFs, which suppressed physical gold demand by offering synthetic exposure. For Bitcoin, this means price discovery detached from utility. ETFs encourage passive holding, not spending. They funnel money to custodians like BlackRock, centralizing control in a decentralized system. Satoshi Nakamoto designed Bitcoin to eliminate intermediaries and be a peer-to-peer system. Yet ETFs reintroduce centralized control. Deepening this, ETFs don't scale the network. They operate off-chain. So transaction volume on Bitcoin's blockchain remains low. In 2025, despite ETF hype, daily on-chain transactions plummeted. This creates a two-tier system. Speculators profit from price swings while the protocol stagnates. If adoption means Wall Street's blessing, we've missed the point. True scaling requires Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, not just a store of value. As economist Milton Friedman noted, money's value comes from its acceptability in trade. Derivatives dilute that, turning Bitcoin into a casino chip rather than currency. So, how does Bitcoin truly scale? By people actually using it, spending Bitcoin on goods and services, then replacing it through earnings or purchases. This creates a virtuous cycle of circulation, building network effects and trust. At its core, Bitcoin was invented as a peer-to-peer electronic cash. Spending it as a medium of exchange increases transaction volume, incentivizing miners and developers to improve scalability. When you spend Bitcoin at a store and the merchant restocks by accepting more Bitcoin payments, velocity rises. This replacement mechanism, earning back what you spend, turns Bitcoin into a living economy. Technologies enable this. Bitcoin's base layer is secure, but slow, 7 transactions per second. Layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network scale it exponentially, handling millions of transactions per second off-chain with near-instant low-fee micropayments. By 2025, Lightning has over 100 million channels, powering apps in gaming, streaming, and remittances. Sidechains like Liquid add functionality without bloating the main chain. Real-world examples prove this. In El Salvador, Bitcoin as legal tender since 2021 has boosted tourism and remittances. Citizens spend it daily, replacing it through salaries. Companies like Strike enable cross-border payments where people send Bitcoin home instantly, far cheaper than Western Union. Usage drives innovation. As more spend, demand for better tools grow. Think Fedimint for community custody, or Spaces Protocol for human-readable Bitcoin addresses without the need for DNS. This organic growth outpaces top-down ETF hype. Challenges do exist. Volatility discourages spending. Gresham's law, bad money, drives out good. And regulatory hurdles persist. But solutions emerge, like Fedimint and Spaces Protocol. Education shifting mindsets from HODL to spend and replace. Ultimately, adoption metrics should measure active wallets and transaction counts, not USD price or ETF inflows. When Bitcoin powers global trade, remittances, e-commerce, and even salaries, it scales to billions. Of course, critics argue spending Bitcoin triggers capital gains taxes, complicating everyday use, and volatility makes it risky for merchants. But counter this with tools like automated tax tracking, in-wallets, if needed. Most think as adoption grows, volatility decreases. Bitcoin's 2025 standard deviation is half of 2020's. Although I would argue, as Bitcoin adoption increases, volatility increases to the upside, to a point where all we ever use is Bitcoin in self-custody. Usage of Bitcoin incentivizes efficient mining, as efficient operations dominate. Counter-arguments to hoarding, it's a phase, like gold's transition from hoard to currency. This is how money scales. This is how money is adopted. But Bitcoin's programmability accelerates this. Looking ahead by 2030, if spending dominates, Bitcoin could process 1 billion transactions daily via layers, rivaling and surpassing fiat systems. This isn't utopian, it's inevitable as fiat inflation erodes trust. In summary, Bitcoin won't scale through hoarding or paper options like ETFs that dilute its revolutionary potential. True adoption blooms when we spend and replace, building a dynamic, inclusive economy. It's time to move beyond speculation. Use Bitcoin and watch it transform the world.